Hi and welcome, I'm Stan, this is Atoms of Stardust, and we continue our series exploring urban design and planning of Soviet and post-USSR cities, its architecture and its flaws. And of course, we're learning a few Russian words in the process. In this part 2.1 video, we're talking about the yards of the Soviet-era buildings and the equipment and amenities they offer to the children and to the rest of the people. The city in our example is located in Belarus, it's called Svetlogorsk, and it's got around 70,000 inhabitants, so it's not the smallest one out there. And yet, as you will notice during this video, in my opinion, it doesn't offer nearly enough comforts for its people, kids in particular. Okay, so let's start with a yard from our previous video, the yard in front of my grandmother's house. If you haven't seen the previous video, by the way, be sure to check it out. We've taken a tour inside a typical Soviet-era flat. So, as you can see, there's not a lot of things for kids here. A bar with rings, turnik or перекладина, a slide, горка, few climbing metal things, one shaped like a rainbow, лестница or радуга, respectively, and a swing. Not a lot of equipment, considering this yard is shared between 3 large buildings with approximately 100 flats in one and 80 flats in each of the other 2 buildings. This is unfortunately rather common, as you'll see from this video, and not only in this city, but across Belarus in general and Russia as well. And as you might have noticed, in this case the city hasn't done much to update or even renovate this equipment. It looks like it might have arrived straight from USSR. We can talk about why that's the case in more details in a future video, so please subscribe for that. Now let's move to another yard. And on our way we'll pass through a small forest area. As you might have noticed already, there's quite a lot of trees in these clips, and I have to say this is one of the better things about this particular city. There's quite a lot of greenery. And in this case, the city is more of an exception than a rule, especially compared to a lot of Russian cities. So, this is the yard where I grew up, and in fact, that's the building where I lived up to the age of 14. The other side of the building, unfortunately, doesn't have any amenities, so let's just talk about what we see in the picture here. Seemingly a bit more equipment, and some of it is a bit newer. Interestingly, English has a different word for a seesaw and for a swing, while in Russian both of them are called kacheli. And then the regular offenders, this metal rainbow, a slide and a climbing frame, something we'd call lazalka or lazinka, something like that, from the word lazit or to climb. There's also a small football field with gravel on the ground, so that's really fun. Actually, when I was a kid, there's been a lot more things in this area and in some other parts of the city, but they all either decayed and crumbled or have been demolished instead of renovating and restoring it, and that's a topic for a whole another video in and of itself, so once again, please subscribe if you want to see it. We then visit another yard, lots of trees, very little actual equipment for kids. Moving on to yet another yard, and here we see a real old relic, concrete ping pong table in an absolutely appalling condition, quite obviously unfit for any games, and yet never restored or fixed. In the same yard we spot already common set of equipment, a slide, seesaw, swing and climbing frame, and in a distance a sandbox, песочница. Also, you can see how some people still dry their clothes or bed sheets outside on these racks or hangers. Another yard, another this time newer playground with the good old swings, a seesaw and a sandbox. This time with a bench for parents too and a lot of sand. Now I'd like to show you a few yards with nearly identical layouts but quite different sets of equipment. Not sure how does this happen, but when one yard has got a sandbox, a climbing frame, a swing, and a lot of trees once again, another one has just a sandbox and an old rainbow climbing frame and an old set of bars for different heights. Also, you might notice that the building on the left was slightly renovated, at least on the outside, while building on the right was not. Then we take a look at another set of twin yards, and if one's at least got a rainbow, sandbox and that concrete ping pong table, another one must be happy with just a sandbox. Lots of trees once again, which is nice, but basically no toys for kids or youth or, heaven forbid, even adults, because people must suffer, not enjoy their lives. In a yard a bit further, we spot more of those public hangars, I guess we should call them. There's also a slide, a bit newer one this time, and an old swing. Let's transport into another yard, familiar at this point slide, and then a triangular frame, actually to dust off and clean your carpets. As we turn around and look at the opposite direction, we notice a slide and a sandbox overshadowed by quite a big parking lot. Once again, underground parking hasn't been invented yet in the year 2022 in Belarus, so we have to contend with at least a separate parking lot instead of cars being parked on the grass. If we look around this area, we'll notice a sand pit, climbing frame, and lots of trees. If we move a bit, we'll find a few more of these climbing frames. Another yard, but good old sandbox and a rainbow amidst the forest, basically. We move on and find another yard, this time with a gazebo, besedka, which comes from the Russian word beseda, or a conversation. So this word in English would be kind of a conversationer or something like that. In the same yard, we can see the same old, quite old in this case, climbing frames, sandbox, and a swing. Some other yards nearby just have such swing in front of it, and that's it. Some, in a different spot in town, don't have even such basics. Some have a school in front of them, so they simply put in the yard just the basics, a sandbox and a few climbingers. I know it's not a real word, but maybe it can become one, because saying all the time climbing frame is kinda, I don't know, weird. Climbinger. We can make it a word, I guess. And that concludes part 2.1 of our series about exploring ex-USSR city in Belarus. In the next video, we will move to slightly newer micro-districts with 9-story buildings and take a look at what kind of urban design, architecture and equipment they offer to the people living there. Because there will be way more people living, so it should be better, right? Subscribe to find out in the next episode. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment, even if it's just a few words. It helps a small channel a lot, because otherwise YouTube doesn't really recommend small channels to anyone, while a lot of subreddits on Reddit don't really allow to post your own videos, so there's no real way to grow a channel or reach an audience of people who might actually enjoy these types of videos. Also, of course, leave a like, share it with other people, please subscribe to the channel, interact with this video as much as you can. That's highly appreciated. And by the way, if you haven't seen a previous video where we took a look inside a typical Soviet flat, now would be a great time to do it. Thank you for watching, my name is Stan, this is Atoms of Stardust. I'll see you in the next one, take care.